Everyone, hello. This is Dr. Garrett. Are we going? I'm waiting to see if it's live or not.
For nutrition detective.
Oh, there we are. Okay, yeah. we are live now. So actually, Joe, can you send me a message and tell me if you can hear me? Just because I don't have my camera going, so I'm not sure if it's yeah, we got it. Okay, great. Good. So yeah, we don't have the internet to handle video out where we are in Idaho right now, so we're going to work on that for the future, hopefully when I'm all moved up here. And so Kelsey, say hi.
Hi.
Kelsey's joining us today, so she'll be much more active in the Q&A. I already see some questions for her there. But first, I wanted to go over a recent well, that's not a recent paper. It's a paper that I just learned about. So I was searching around on, somebody showed it to me. They sent it to me on Instagram. So let me find it. It's from 2016. And it backs up what we talk about here. Oh, wow. Joe, this is going to be interesting. Hold on. Babe, can you find my phone? I think it's on the stool. Okay. Share screen. I thought we did. Didn't I just do that, Joe? I thought I did that. There we go. Okay, cool. So let me zoom in on this a little bit. Can you open up my Telegram? Mm-hmm. Okay. So I learned about this paper, 2016. Avoidance of sun exposure as a risk factor for major causes of death, a competing risk analysis of the melanoma in southern Sweden cohort. So I'm going to go over the basic stuff on this. For those of you, I'm going to give those of you, some of you, the TLDR on this. Basically, the people who got moderate to high sun exposure basically did better in every single way. And the authors still kind of try to make it look like the sun is bad. However, when you really look at the stats and you're not trying to be to gaslight yourself into the sun being bad for you, then it starts to make sense. So, and what do we say here? We say get your sun. Sun is basically free detox. Okay, sunlight oxidizes toxins in your skin. So do tanning beds. Now, you're not trying to get, this is an important thing. Burning your skin is bad. Okay, so getting sunburns from a tanning bed from the sun is not good for you. And what that is basically doing is kind of crispy frying toxins into your skin. That's not good. However, the benefits of sunlight in tanning beds, as you'll see in this paper, are still more than avoiding the sun. So here we go. Women with active sunlight exposure habits experience a lower mortality, that's risk of death rate, than women who avoid sun exposure. However, they are at an increased risk of skin cancer. They're going to say this over and over. What it means is that they die less of other causes. So as a percentage, cancer went up in them as a percentage. But as you'll see, they're dying less from everything, including skin cancers. So let's go over this next part. We assess the differences in sun exposure as a risk factor for all-cause mortality. That is risk of death from all causes. Basically, for almost 30,000 Swedish women, 20-year follow-up. How many papers do you get that are 20 years follow-up on 30,000 people? They were recruited from 1990 to 1992, and they were 25 to 64 years old at the start of the study. Pay attention. Women with active sun exposure habits were mainly at a lower risk of cardiovascular disease, that's heart disease, and non-cancer, non-cardiovascular disease death as compared to those who avoided sun exposure. So there's less heart disease, less overall mortality from any cause. As a result of their increased survival, the relative, as in a percentage, not the absolute amount, but the percentage contribution of cancer death increase in these women. So they still, this is again the gaslighting where they got to still scare you about something. Pay attention here. Non-smokers who avoided sun exposure had a life expectancy similar to smokers in the highest sun exposure group indicating that avoidance of sun exposure is a risk factor for death of a similar magnitude as smoking. So we've been over this in the Greg Mushin episode. We went over how people who smoked and exercised were healthier or lived longer than people who didn't smoke and didn't exercise. Okay, so you need to move your body and you should get sun or light. And these things will make you happier and healthier and live longer. Compared to the highest sun exposure group, life expectancy of avoiders of sun exposure was reduced by 0.6 to 2.1 years. So they died sooner. Conclusion, the longer life expectancy amongst women with active sun exposure habits was related to a decrease in CVD heart disease and non-cancer, non-heart disease mortality, causing the relative contribution of death due to cancer to increase. Like I said, it's just a percentage. Now let's go into the actual paper. There's a couple of things I wanted to hit on in the actual paper. So, sorry, Joe, let me switch to the tab. Now let me try to make this just a little bigger. There we go. Okay, so I just wanted to go over the abbreviations that they're going to use. Malignant melanoma, right? That's the skin cancer that can spread. Remember, and skin cancer is toxicity stored in the skin. This is why too much crispy frying toxins in your skin creates worse toxins and they get stuck there, whereas regular sun exposure where you're not getting burned helps to detox stuff. So you got to understand that both of these things can be true. Okay. So skin cancer is divided into 3 types according to increasing severity. There's basal cell carcinoma, BCC. Oops, we don't want that. BCC, squamous cell carcinoma, SCC, and cutaneous malignant melanoma. Oh, Joe, I'll get you I'll get the link. Here, let me do this. Sorry, I should have sent those to you before. Here, I'll put them in the chat myself. There's that. And then let me get this one. Joe, this link is from Sci-Hub. I don't know if I'm going to, let me see if it's, oh, there it is. I got it. Here we go. And there's that. Okay. Okay, so we're back. So we're back on this, the PDF. So again, and that the 2 former are often grouped as non-melanoma skin cancer. This is an important one to remember. So this is what they're considering non-cancerous skin cancer, if you want to call it that. Due to their similarity and generally non-fatal prognosis. So they're saying that generally doesn't kill anybody. Okay. Squamous cell carcinoma is mostly related to cumulative. Why is this popping up? Anyway, cumulative exposure to ultraviolet light, whilst UV light mainly increases risk of malignant melanoma through episodic sunburn and excessive exposure, including frequent use of tanning beds. You can overdo anything, folks. Don't overdo it. The incidence of malignant pay attention here too. The incidence of malignant melanoma in Sweden has doubled during the last 15 years, whilst the mortality rate has been constant since the 1980s. They're diagnosing it more. All they're doing is finding it more, and the mortality rate has been constant for 40 years. Okay? So what do they do with that? They try to scare you. What did they ask people about? 4 predetermined questions were posed regarding sun exposure. First question, how often do you sunbathe during the summertime? Do you sunbathe during the winter, such as on vacation to the mountains? Do you use tanning beds? So they include tanning beds in the sunlight group. Do you go abroad on vacation to swim and sunbathe? Okay. Let's go. I think we're on the table next. Where is it? Oh, this is just an important part I wanted to read. Women with the most active sun exposure habits with the non-melanoma skin cancer were at the lowest probability of death. The most sun exposure, and they still had some skin changes, and they had the lowest probability of death. That is the group with the highest life expectancy. So all those dermatologists trying to freak everybody out about, oh, you got a little skin change here. Oh, pay attention to this paper. The hazard ratios decreased dose dependently in both non-malignant melanoma and malignant melanoma groups with increasing sun exposure. The risk of mortality, the risk of death, the hazard ratio for the risk of death decreased with more sun exposure in both the non-malignant melanoma and melanoma groups with more sun exposure, with 4 times lower hazard ratios amongst those with the most active sun exposure habits. We're going to go over that in the chart. Let's find it. Okay. No, not this one. Next one. So I want you to pay attention here. They just said the 4 times, right? We're going to look at this. I know looking at all these numbers can be hard for some people, but the hazard ratio of all-cause mortality, so all risk of death from all causes by skin cancer and sun exposure groups. So we've got avoidance, moderate, and most, right? So for those with no skin cancer, the most active sun exposure had the lowest risk of death, as they just said. And then we go to the non-malignant skin or carcinoma, whatever they were saying, cancer or carcinoma, I don't remember. Anyway, again, the lowest risk was in the most active sun exposure group. Then we come down to malignant melanoma. The most active sun exposure group had the lowest risk. The avoidance of sun exposure had a 4 times higher risk in both of these. See right here for the non-malignant skin cancer, or I forget if they were saying squamous cell carcinoma. Either way, 4 times. That's what the authors were just saying here, the 4.1 and the 4.1. Now I want you to look at the deaths here from malignant melanoma. 5 out of 14, that's more than a third. Here we have moderate, 20 out of 127, that's like 1/6. Most active sun exposure, 14 out of 126, that's less than 1/10. Do you see that there's less deaths out of the total diagnoses for the most sun exposure? So that what this is saying is that sun exposure is protective against death from malignant melanoma. Okay. Tanning beds were included in the sun exposure group. It's really important to remember. So they're vindicating tanning beds at the same time. So as they say here, most studies have investigated the effects of the upper extremes of sun exposure as in overexposure and have shown increased incidences of malignant melanoma and NMSC. We have investigated the lower extremes of sun exposure, underexposure, and found that the hazard ratios for all-cause mortality increased 4 times in both NMSC and malignant melanoma groups amongst avoiders of sun exposure as compared to the highest sun exposure group. In addition, women with NMSC and the highest sun exposure had the longest life expectancy. This finding is in agreement with several previous reports. Newton, Bishop, and coworkers reported improved prognosis as in predicting how well they're going to do of malignant melanoma by increasing vitamin D levels. I'm assuming they mean sunlight or tanning exposure there, because they're not saying supplements. Jensen and coworkers showed a 9% increase in 10-year survival of individuals with basal cell carcinoma. And Yang and coworkers reported 20% to 30% lower mortality amongst those reporting at least 1 week of sunbathing per year. So on the vacation, on the holiday. Thus, it seems that sun exposure causes an increased incidence of NMSC and MM, but not a decrease in life expectancy. So yes, these things may be happening a little bit more in those who get more sun, but they are not killing people sooner. As I've said before, both of these things can be happening. If you're getting burned, you know, a lot of people go out in the sun at the start of summer and they get burned and they go, oh, it turns into a tan and then I'm fine. They still got burned. If you go to a tanning bed and it's a different one than you've used, or you go too long, yes, you can get a burn from that. Is that good for you? No, that's not good. It's still better than getting the light is still better for you than not getting it. Can it also cause problems? Like Can you go and exercise and get more fit and still break yourself down and start getting chronic injuries? Yes, both can be true. Okay, so this is really important. So we want sunlight as much as we can handle, or tanning beds or spurties or whatever, and we do not want to get burned. So less is good. You know, you don't want to get burned. So if you're going to pick a time for the tanning bed or something, do it less rather than more and figure out the right dose. Okay, here's something they added about sunscreens. Further, because there is no robust evidence to show that it is safe in terms of malignant melanoma to be exposed to the sun for longer after applying sunblock, we question that the general interpretation of the guideline that, quote, as long as you use sunblock, you may stay out in the sun for a long time. An intriguing explanation for the rising malignant melanoma incidence in Sweden is that the restrictive sun exposure advice that urges reliance on sunscreen use has resulted in overexposure, which is a major risk factor for malignant melanoma. So people are going out, they're putting sunblock on, especially ladies. You're putting all these cosmetics on your face with sunscreen in it. That counts. It's quite possible that not only would people stay out in the sun longer because they don't, quote unquote, burn, but then you've got sunscreen toxins in your skin, literally, that you are then baking and crispy frying from the sun. And then we see more malignant melanoma in the skin because it's a toxicity collection. Okay, so keep doing your sunlight or UVB or spurty, or we talked about the DIY tanning lamp that somebody made. I forget their name, but yeah, you can do all of this. And you need sun. Just because you choose or you were moved to a low sun area does not mean that you don't need sun. You need sun or UV light in low sun areas more than the people who are in the high sun areas. So get outside and go for a walk or do exercise. Don't be afraid of the sun. The sun is killing women in this study 4 times more. I'm sorry, that avoiding the sun is killing women 4 times more in this paper than the people who are getting the most sun exposure. This is a very, very important study. Okay, moving on. Let's see. Oh, we wanted to go through some testimonials. We had some testimonials. So here, Joe, I'll get this all ready. There we go. Okay. Do we got it going, Joe? Can you show my screen? Okay. So let me zoom in a bit on this. Okay, so first testimonial. These are, as I've said before, I don't put any identifying information on these. These testimonials are posted inside the Love Your Liver program, inside the members.nutritiondetective.com. This is a private network where people can discuss all of this stuff free from the trolling and the general nastiness of the wider internet. So that is, and the whole program is in there. So if you don't want to have to listen to tons and tons and tons of videos here on my channel, the Love Your Liver program gives you a place to discuss it and to find it all in one spot. Okay, testimonial number 1, cholesterol and A1C. Despite my efforts to eat and live healthy my entire adult life, fell into veganism, carnivore, Weston A. Price, etc. A year ago, my cholesterol levels were a mess, including high triglycerides, and my A1C was 5.4 and have been getting closer to the 5.7 pre-diabetes point. Most of my family members are diabetic and or on statins. I started LYL, Love Your Liver, in May of last year, eventually started taking flesh niacin, and in October after my consultation began taking 2 keystone minerals with flesh niacin, doubling my dose. I just had some blood work done and my cholesterol levels are perfect and my A1C is an ideal 5.2. No medications, just Love Your Liver. I also kept my saturated fat intake up to 13 grams a day. I have been so blessed by this program. Thank you, Dr. Garrett and Kelsey. Awesome. Remember, Kelsey was the flesh niacin, is and was the flesh niacin guru that brought that into the program. So here we go for the second one. My boyfriend's doctor has been trying his best to get him to take a statin. Johnny said no, so the doctor tried to put him on Zetia. I knew if he would use Dr. Garrett's principles that we could get his cholesterol to come down. Total cholesterol was 230 the 1st of December. Johnny follows some of the dietary guidelines for Love Your Liver. He took activated charcoal twice a day. If you didn't know, activated charcoal reduces cholesterol in the research, folks, because cholesterol is a toxicity marker. He started taking 25 milligrams of flesh niacin and increased to 100 milligrams of flesh niacin from December to February, and he takes a keystone minerals daily and sometimes an extra 30 milligrams of zinc. Cholesterol was 181 when he had blood work done on February 9th. I am so thankful that Love Your Liver works. Addition, FYI, he did take small amounts of charcoal and niacin for several months before December, but stopped the niacin because he didn't like the flesh. That is the rub with flesh niacin. It is flesh niacin. So some people don't like that. Then they don't get the benefits. So okay, here we go. So we're going to talk about Kelsey's zinc and niacin salve right here. So these are three testimonials basically about flesh niacin and zinc and keystone minerals and zinc and niacin salve. So, for anyone who has ever had a cold sore on your lip, I want to share that the niacin/zinc salve is miraculous. I've had many cold sores, aka herpes simplex 2, over the years and tried so many different strategies. The antiviral by pharma, expensive and useless. L-lysine salve and tablets, somewhat helpful. I think those are part of the letters that we should not say. So we'll just that gel, etc., to reduce and relieve them. One thing always stands out is how much pain these small blisters generate. The pain is bad for up to a week, and then it takes another 7 days for full healing. During that time, they can be quite unsightly, so they consistently last 14 days until fully cleared. Well, since I got the niacin salve a couple months ago, I've been putting it on spots on my face twice daily, including the part of my lip where cold sores have been prone to appear. Last weekend, I started experiencing cold symptoms of congestion and a cough, first time in quite a while, and continued applying the zinc plus niacin salve. There was a spot that puffed up on my lip as if it was going to be a cold sore, but it never turned into one, and there was absolutely no pain. I cannot recommend this salve highly enough to anyone who has ever been plagued by cold sores. Truly miraculous. I took a picture, but it is very unflattering. It does show what appears to be the start of a cold sore. So that is the zinc and niacin salve. You can find that in the shop. You Love Your Liver members, remember to go into the VIP store and get that. I can tell you the zinc and niacin salve, just for those of you who don't have skin issues commonly, one of the things, if you live in an area that is prone to mosquitoes, just last week or the week before, I was in my study, and it seems that in my house, when bugs get into the house, they go into the study. I have no idea why. It's like tucked away in the middle of my house. But anyway, I had no shoes on. I was on the computer, and then I start getting the itching feeling down on my foot of a mosquito bite. And, it takes them a while to pop up. It was about 10 minutes later, I was out in the living room, and then I see what looks like about 6 mosquito bites on my foot. And I'm going, oh, no wonder it's itching so much. And I went and I got the zinc and niacin salve, and I rubbed it on them. And I mean, sometimes I'm even shocked at how effective this salve is. And about 10 minutes later, I looked for the red bumps that had been there, and they were all gone. Itching was gone. Mosquito bites were literally gone. So even if you just keep it around for that, maybe for your kids, anything like bug bites or something like that, it's really, really effective. So, and then if you have skin issues, you can use it there. Now, I saw one question. So I think that's it for the stuff I wanted to go over. Oh, thanks for showing that, Joe. Let me take this down and that. Okay.
Yeah, if anybody has any questions on it too.
Oh yeah, actually, well, I saw that the first couple of questions. Let me go look, Joe. I don't know if if anybody has any super chats, we do try to get to those first as a priority. But we have a couple questions here for Kelsey, and since Kelsey's not normally here, I wanted to give her those. Let me give you the mic. You have the mic?
No, I'll give it to you. Oh, there it is. I see a little
hold
triple.
on. Here we go. Hold on. Oh, there's the mic. There you go. It's on.
Okay.
Okay, so Casey had a question for Kelsey. I'm an amateur cold process soap maker, and I was wondering if I can continue to use my coconut activated charcoal. I use it mostly for color or color, the British spelling.
Perhaps it just depends. What I have heard about coconut charcoal is that they're just throwing it in the pits, and they're in places where it's really rainy and there's mold, so they're having incomplete kind of burning, so it's not completely charcoal in there, and there's some possible mold contamination for the coconuts. And hardwood charcoal, I guess that would be more likely to be in like a deciduous forest or something, so not quite as prone to mold, or better practices. Yeah, so you're washing a lot of stuff off anyways, and mold spores tend to be fatty, and that's soap is cleaning things off. So you can. I kind of stopped using too much charcoal in my cold process soap anyways, or hot process too, but I like cold process right now. Just because it's messy and it looks, when you use it in your shower tub, it can look like mold, black mold. So it freaks people out a little bit. But yeah, if you want to, I'm not as concerned about it as if you were taking it inwardly. So I think so. Yeah, if you want to.
Yeah, I just would add to that, like, folks, if you're buying coconut charcoal, make sure to smell it, because we've had people tell us that their coconut charcoal smells funky. And if there's anything that charcoal should not be doing, it's smelling. It's supposed to get rid of smells. So that's what I was on I was a guest on a podcast with somebody, and they were saying that they saw, like, what do they do with all these old coconut shells? They do just burn them in pits, and they're often moldy. And if they don't burn them at, or however you want to call it, making activated charcoal, if they don't cook them at high enough temperatures, they're not getting rid of all those organic compounds, and they can look charcoaly, but it's not all gone.
Yeah, or they're mixing like half burned with fully burned, and it's just, then they're grinding it all up. So
yeah, so we like hardwood activated charcoal more, just because it seems that there's a lot more care put into it, rather than just down in some rainforest.
Oh, she's saying she or he uses it mostly for color. Yeah, that's fine. A little gray, and plus you're really oxidizing a lot of toxins with the NaOH for the sodium hydroxide. So that's, I'm less worried about the source of the charcoal. So if you're just using it for color, you're not using like therapeutic amounts of charcoal, that's fine.
Well, you could probably, if you garden, you could probably use the charcoal out in the garden, or you could use it in a bath. That's one way to get rid of a lot of it. But yeah, if you're just using it for color, then that's up to you. If you wanted to just get some color in your soap, but you wanted to make it, more detoxing, you could add some zeolite to the soap. That would be
I've done that.
A color. Yeah. So anyway, let's keep going. There was one while Kelsey's here. There was another one I thought for Kelsey. Maybe I didn't see it. Okay, so I don't see any super chats. So let's just start again from the top. Kelsey, you might know this better than I do. Have any studies been done to determine the effects of Asian salt, otherwise known as MSG, on thyroid and TSH levels? Could it raise them significantly in a negative way?
I haven't seen that we have some people that still are testing their thyroid, or they are hesitant to get off of their thyroid. A lot of people have been on it for a really long time. So not everybody's testing it. So I don't see everything about how that's going. I haven't seen any studies to suggest that it raises TSH. So I don't know. I haven't even seen any studies. I'm not really sure what the connection could be. If are they asking is that what happened to them or something? Are they saying that?
I don't know. I didn't see anything. There's just that one, and then there's could it
be higher than significant?
Could it raise TSH, which would be low thyroid?
I don't think so. And I don't know of any mechanisms where that could be. But if anybody has research or something, we can try to break that down. Yeah.
Oh, I found a great paper. I'm not going to go over it today, but I found a great paper that was, it showed so obviously the smear campaign against glutamate. And I'll go over it, I think, maybe in the future. But yeah, it's very obvious that they were purposely trying to smear MSG. And it was really actually what the research, in my opinion, was showing was the damaging effects of smoking on traumatic brain injury. It wasn't MSG. So the next question, Alfreda asks, could copper stirring from potassium citrate raise TSH level extremely high? Anything that you stir up copper with could cause all sorts of things. So you do need to watch out. Citrates, some people are sensitive to citrates, and it seems to stir up copper. Like anything that can help us detox from copper can stir up copper, as I just went over in one of those copper toxicity live streams that we just did. So could it? Sure. Now, if there's a bunch of things that you're doing, Alfreda, it sounds like you got multiple things going. If you're adding a bunch, this is for everybody listening. If you're adding a bunch of things all at once, you have no idea of what is doing what. So if you start pushing detox too hard, stirring up copper or whatever, then and numbers go wonky on a lab. First of all, if your TSH, your thyroid numbers are going wonky and you feel better, then this can be just a temporary shift in your internal chemistry. Okay, Kelsey wants to say something.
Oh, are you done?
Go ahead, yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm also starting to have some concerns about citrates. I don't think they're bad or anything. It's fine. It's a natural thing, and it's part of the citric acid cycle and all that. It may slow like heavy metal detox, mostly on the reabsorption side. So, the heavy metals are going to be coming out of the bile, and if there's citrates present in the stomach and mixed in with the bile because you're eating them or you're taking them with food, and there's bile that has heavy metals in there, it could possibly increase the reabsorption rate of that because there's this enterohepatic cycle. Am I saying that right?
Enterohepatic circulation.
Enterohepatic circulation, right? So some of it could be reabsorbed because the citrate molecule, it can bind to things, but it can also help those metals get reabsorbed. Same with vinegar, acetate. So if there's acetate around, the copper, let's say, could associate with the acetate and get reabsorbed a little bit easier than if it was kind of hanging out with some glutamate and things like that, other organic acids that are in your food.
Yeah, I'll just say this right here, right now on the live stream. One of the things that I started thinking about was if you guys have seen my fibromyalgia episode of the what's the other term for it?
Malate. Are you talking about?
No, the myoencephal.
Oh, the name for chronic fatigue.
Yeah, I forget that it's three letters.
M-E. Oh shoot!
I'm forgetting
it. Really showing her.
Anyway, but so the fancy term for myalgic encephalomyelitis. Yeah. Anyway, something like that. Anyway, I remember in the past. So this is something that if you guys want to go out and try it, this is not medical advice. This is something that I've been learning about, and I've been testing it myself and talking to some other people about it. But I'm just gonna let it out of the cage here. Potassium malate, as in potassium bound to malic acid. Now we know that from a lot of people who have had fibromyalgia, them taking malic acid or using magnesium malate has often relieved a lot of their symptoms and helped with their energy and helped with their pain. And there is some research from soil and agriculture research that malic acid can bind to copper. Now, binding to copper doesn't mean necessarily detoxing it.
And those horrible liver gall flushes. They tell people to take malic acid beforehand, a few days beforehand, and or drink apple juice, which is high malic acid, to kind of soften the stones up.
Yeah, there's research on malic acid helping with gallbladder stuff.
So it could potentially maybe, break up kind of crusty minerals or crusty heavy metals and get that going again if it's breaking up softening stones.
Yeah.
Not that we're, recommending that, doing that, but.
However, so since we talk about bile and the gallbladder a lot, I started noticing these coincidences, and we know that vitamin A toxicity blocks potassium channels. Copper tends to deplete potassium. And as we're talking about here, potassium citrate, some people get along with it, some people don't. And I've been looking for, there's only one potassium malate brand in the States. It's on, I know it's on Amazon. It is Ideal Infusion is the brand, and it's potassium malate. And they're 250 milligrams of potassium per capsule. I've been experimenting with it. It smells like apples, actually, which is funny because apples have a lot of malic acid in them. So anyway, for those of you who are experimenters and you want to go out and try some, always remember, don't go too crazy with potassium supplements too quickly, because too little potassium affects your heart, and way too much potassium can affect your heart. So just be aware. But that's basically 2 capsules of the potassium malate is the equivalent of the potassium in a banana or in a cup of coconut water. So, and it's got the malic acid. So I've been taking it. I've been feeling like I have a very good intuitive feeling about it. But there's only one brand out there. If you guys get back to me with good feedback, I will probably start making it myself so we can get it out to you folks. You want to go?
So, somebody had a question about their zinc and niacin salve. Yeah, so it's a very concentrated. I don't know which kind of version you got.
Read the question.
Oh, sorry. Somebody asked, random question while we wait. My zinc and niacin salve is very grainy. Is it supposed to be this way? Earlier versions were a bit more concentrated, and sometimes the zinc niacin salt, as you call it, the zinc and niacin bound kind of chelated together, could kind of reform and get a little grainy. So no big deal. If you can still use it. Just you can rub it in a little bit more. You can dilute it a little bit with a carrier oil that you like. Some coconut oil, some jojoba oil, all that. But yes, there's nothing wrong with it. It's just some of the the good stuff in there has kind of come back together and kind of separated a little bit from the oils in there.
Yeah, I just want to add something to that. We've been working on the formulation of this. I mean, Kelsey and I, mainly Kelsey, have been working on the formulation of the zinc and niacin salve. And before, when it was more concentrated, it was a little thinner, and it had the grainy texture to it. Now, obviously, like you're saying, is it supposed to be that way? It is. That is the way it is, and it does work that way. And then we decided to reformulate it a little bit because we had some people with the softer texture and the higher concentration, like rubbing it all over, and they were using way too much of it. So we decided to fix both of those issues by lowering the concentration of the zinc niacinate a bit and thickening the salve a bit. And now we've got people saying it doesn't spread, and it absolutely spreads. It's real oils, folks. Like it's literally real oils. You just have to warm them up. And you can warm them up, leave it sitting in your hand for a minute or two, or put it on your skin and let it sit there and soften up for a minute or two, and then rub it in, and it goes in really well. So we're trying. It's the whole thing of you can't please everybody.
Yeah, and I want to tell people, like, if you don't know if it's going to work for your skin condition, you could just try it because it works for so many things. I've heard so many just amazing stuff: eczema, psoriasis, bug bites, bee stings, poison oak, irritations, scratches. So it's good to have around just in case. And if you ask me, is this going to work for this? I could say, I don't know. But it may work for something else. So it's good to have around, even under eye circles. I've heard it, and for wrinkles too. And spots. Yeah. Liver spots. So yeah, if you got a skin thing, any skin thing, and you want to try it and let us know if it works for you, it just might.
Okay. So let's keep going. Oh, there was a super chat from Sergio. Let me see. There it is. Sergio says, I often get very ugly bile dumps with vomiting and nasty headache. I noticed I get those after I eat digestive biscuits with palm oil. I don't get why. I'm not sure I know what a digestive biscuit is.
I think they have it more in like Europe. It's like a hard, semi-sweet cracker. What?
Why are you putting the microphone down?
Oh. Well, I was kind of just talking to you. Yeah, they have those biscuits, digestive biscuits in there, and like it's like a hard semi-sweet cracker.
Let me look them up.
It's just like so I can... Okay, so here we have something. I think it's called Bavita or something like that. Digestive biscuits.
Just so I know exactly what we're talking about.
Trying to bring them over here. I saw them at Costco.
McVitie's. Okay, a semi-sweet crisp biscuit originated in Scotland.
Oh, it has antacids in it. Oh, it has baking soda, so it's probably lowering the acidity of the stomach.
Well,
and it's just staying in there. Yeah, that would make you. That would just cause stuff to ferment if it's too alkaline.
Well, the big thing here would be if there's palm oil in it. I mean, there's going to be one of the things that triggers bile dumping is fats. And then if there's a significant amount of fiber in them, which I'm guessing, well, it says wheat flour. There's the malt extract. That could be something that somebody might not get along with. Anyway,
it might be whole grain wheat flour.
The simple thing here, Sergio, would be if it hurts, don't do it kind of thing. Doc, it hurts when I do this. Well, then don't do that. If you know that food triggers a big bile dump, I mean, if a food is triggering vomiting and headache, you have very distinct signs that your body doesn't like it. So that's the simple thing here is we could think about all the ways that it could cause this issue. And even still, even if we figured out which parts of it cause the issue, it's going to be don't eat that then. The solution is the same. Whether we get down to the nitty gritty of which one it is, I don't know. Let's see, up there. So that's what we got. I would be real careful with that. And one thing to know about palm oil, obviously palm oil, they probably got the word palmitic acid from palm oil. And palmitic acid is in the liver, retinyl palmitate. So vitamin A bound to palmitic acid is like 60% of the stored vitamin A in your liver is retinyl palmitate. So the body really likes to grab retinol or palmitic acid and bind it to vitamin A. So I don't know if that's a good or a bad thing overall, but I'm just saying that is the coincidental thing between palmitic acid and vitamin A is that the body loves to store it together with it. So let's, there was another super chat. So that's what I got, Sergio. Next one from Sergio again. Thank you, Sergio. Is sodium nitrate from processed meats bad for us? There's a pretty simple thing in the research, and that is that processed meats are bad for people. Some studies that are trying to make meat look bad for everybody just group processed meats and pork in with red meat and chicken, and those are very poorly designed studies where they're purposely trying to demonize meat. Processed meat in just about every study, when they isolate it, is bad for you. So there was just a paper that came out today about Alzheimer's and meat consumption, and they were saying that the ApoE4 genetic, mutation or whatever you want to call it in Alzheimer's, when people ate unprocessed meat and enough of it, it got rid of that genetic risk factor statistically entirely. Processed meat caused problems. So I don't know that it's just the sodium nitrate or the processed meat. I mean, I don't know. Tube meats, as I call them, are just generally not going to be great for us. because you've increased the surface area where things can start, decaying and rotting, and then they're just trying to keep it from doing all that by putting tons of salt in there. It's not a great setup. So I'm not going to say that it's the sodium nitrite, but if you go and look up the research on processed meats, it's not good.
It's hard to explain around. Yeah.
So, there it is. Myalgic encephalitis. There it was.
Oh, thank you. Somebody said MSG did not raise my TSH. Thank you, Christina Sophia, for that.
Okay, so that's all the super chats. Let's go and start from the top again. Oh yeah. Jeremy asks, when are you going to address and solve HPV? I'm waiting. Well, we don't solve virus issues. We solve toxicity issues. I would definitely, I don't know. I would just say.
Some people have said that the zinc and niacin salve has taken away warts, and it did for my kid. My boy had a wart on his thumb, and I did that, and it went away. So you could possibly try that.
Yeah, topically, zinc and salve is working topically. That likely means it will work internally too. So I have not looked into HPV specifically, and just to give you an idea, if you've watched the other episodes we've done on specific disease conditions, we find the same patterns in nearly every disease condition. It's just a different presentation based on the person. So
and it's really interesting. Just we were talking about skin cancers earlier and HPV, and it's just like, if you actually are making a growth and they can see it, and you could potentially cut it off, like that's actually protective. It's people who so you see somebody with a lot of moles and brown spots and everything, they're actually more protected from skin cancer than somebody who doesn't get those and gets the more quieter cancer. So that ability to kind of sequester toxins and kind of have that brown pigment in that mole is actually protective. And same thing if the HPV is actually producing visible warts, that's the body sequestering those toxins and putting them away from your more important organs and kind of out to the skin.
Okay, so Sergio did another super chat. He's on fire today.
Thanks, Sergio.
Is zinc carnosine any good for digestive issues? So, Kelsey, did you ever experiment with that?
Yeah, there's some decent research about that. Even a zinc carnosine enema, so similar to the niacin enema that I have in the program. However, carnosine does have some sulfur, so that's something to consider. I'd prefer zinc niacinate instead, like what's in our keystone minerals. But yeah, there's it could be, yeah. So similar thing. It's they've tested on people's stomachs, and also the other end with enemas for zinc carnosine, and the results seem to be pretty good.
So I'll just add, I experimented in practice with zinc carnosine. The trademark, or the trademark name is Pepzin, Pepzin, and I used it with people with GERD and ulcers and reflux and stuff like that.
Just be the zinc.
It didn't do anything noticeable. Like, I was disappointed in it nearly every time. I think I had one of my guys, had a little bit of benefit from it. The guy I had who had GERD for like 20 or 30 years of his adult life, and we finally figured it out when I came across the vitamin A toxicity stuff. And then he tells me later that he grew up on an orange tree farm and he would just eat oranges all day some days, and he also took Retin-A, and that's when he took Retin-A as a teenager, and that's when his problems started. And then he did say the zinc carnosine helped him a little bit, but it was the diet that fixed his issue. So I can tell you from blood tests and hair tests that zinc carnosine does not raise zinc levels on either of them that I could tell. So, and it's very expensive for, like, I think a pill is 8 milligrams of zinc, something like that. So could it help? If you're one of the lucky ones, maybe. It's going to be a fairly pricey thing to try. It's not going to help your zinc status much at all. You could do a better form of zinc, like Kelsey was saying, and then try some carnosine if you wanted to try that separately. I mean, in theory, for you to get anything out of the zinc and carnosine in terms of the zinc or the carnosine, it has to dissociate, because there's probably not a zinc carnosine receptor anywhere in the body. And then if they are dissociating in the stomach, then you're really just taking zinc and carnosine anyway.
Yeah, that's right.
So, Kelsey has some zinc carnosine in hand right now from her supplement graveyard. She went to her supplement graveyard and pulled it out.
Yeah, I haven't gotten rid of everything. Yeah, quick release. It says quick release capsule, empty stomach. So for a lot of people, taking zinc on an empty stomach does not feel very good. And can cause, some nausea anyways. Yeah. So it has 84 milligrams of zinc carnosine, but that's not actually how much zinc it has. It has 16 milligrams elemental zinc and L-carnosine, which I think is a peptide. I could be wrong about this, but it's 2 amino acids together, and I think at least one of them is sulfurate. I just can't recall what carnosine
Probably
is.
carnitine plus something else.
Yeah, it's like, yeah.
Okay, so we got another super chat. Okay, so Austin super chat. Thank you very much. Thank you for all the super chats, Sergio. I hope
Somebody asked if you could do malic acid, and yeah, you can.
Yeah. Austin says, I'm currently taking a T3 plus T4 thyroid combo for Hashimoto's. I want to eventually wean off, but do you recommend T4 only over a combo? No. No, I don't. I mean, we're talking about prescription medications here, and we're on YouTube, so I'm going to be very careful about how I address this. If I was helping someone to wean off of thyroid, I would first have them go to T3 only, not T4 only. T4 only is often not very effective. The thing to remember, folks, is that it is your liver that does the vast majority of conversion of T4, which is like a little bit of gasoline, versus T3, which is your real rocket fuel in terms of your thyroid stuff. So if the liver is struggling or not working as well as it could, then it's not going to be converting T4 to T3 as well as it could. So then the T3, the rocket fuel is not going to be there in large enough amounts. So now I will say there is a website out there that highly advocates for T3 only therapy. It is called stopthethyroidmadness.com. Now, they are zealots over there. They really think that, it's kind of like hormonematters.com. They think B1 will fix everything that ails you. Stop the Thyroid Madness is very much like just take more T3 and it'll make everything go away. I don't agree with that. We get people, they tend to advocate for more and more thyroid hormone. We tend to help people get off of thyroid hormone by fixing their problems. However, that website may have some usage in terms of being able to find a doctor who not only is willing to prescribe T3, but may be willing to prescribe T3 only. So, and you may be able to do this, I don't know, completely virtually. It is only thyroid hormone. So that website might have some resources in terms of finding physicians who will work with you on T3 only therapy. But that's, definitely, we've seen, for those of you, especially ladies who are on Armour thyroid or other pig thyroid, we really, Kelsey and I over time are starting to really think,
nobody ever feels good.
We don't like pork, and that's pig thyroid. And it does not seem to do great things in people over the long term. Is it probably a better thyroid medication than T4 only? Sure, maybe. However, it does seem to lose its juice. And if you go on the internet and research Armour thyroid ingredient changes or formula changes, you will see that pretty much every time they change the formula of Armour thyroid or Nature Throid or whatever, people all of a sudden start noticing it doesn't work and they got to up their doses. So, which would probably be coincidental to the price of it going up. I don't know why any pharmaceutical medication companies would ever cause the effectiveness to go down and the prices to go up. We would never assume that they would do that to us, would we? So, yeah. So that's that. Okay. Oh, Austin said super helpful. Thanks. I've already lowered my dose. 1.5 years on the Love Your Liver. I have to send in my hair test and have an appointment with Kelsey in a few months. Awesome. This is what we do. Yeah. So we're working on that stuff. Yeah. You and Kelsey will check in on your selenium levels, but yeah, T3 only is the direction that I would move people towards instead of T4 plus T3, or definitely not T4 only. And I would also move them towards that instead of pig thyroid. So, okay. Katie did a super chat. Thank you, Katie. Do you recommend any B vitamins after being consistent with zinc, magnesium, taurine, etc.? Okay, Austin said he's got to run. You guys are the best. Thanks. You're welcome. Glad we got to your question. So, okay, B vitamins. Well, the big quote-unquote B vitamin that we do like is flush niacin, as in nicotinic acid, not niacinamide, not any of the other ones out there. Flush niacin as in nicotinic acid. Now, when we look at the structure of nicotinic acid, it looks way more like an amino acid than it does the other B vitamins. And also the dosing of nicotinic acid and the need for nicotinic acid in the body is much closer to that of amino acids than the other B vitamins. Like nicotinic acid, flush niacin is in the milligrams, and most of the other B vitamins are in the micrograms. So it stands out as being very different than the other B vitamins. Now, if somebody wanted to experiment, if they're having neurological issues or other things, they can try some thiamine HCl. The Dr. Clark's brand has a pretty good one. And then some people have experimented with a little bit of riboflavin 5-phosphate. However, the thing to know, or some people do some B12 and folinic acid. Folinic acid is another one that we will. Folinic acid is one that we will use. Vitamin A toxicity does deplete folate in the body. I have a whole video on my channel. We like folinic acid comes as calcium folinate. That is how it is sold. And the funny thing about calcium folinate is that the pharmaceutical companies are trying to make it only pharmaceutical so they can take that away from you and make it only as a pharmaceutical thing. So that's if you understand that they're trying to take something away from you buying it in the stores, then you start to understand, wow, maybe this is important. Then like in our flush niacin debunking episode, the pharmaceutical companies are trying to attack flush niacin because they want to sell you genetically modified HDL in pills. So those are the two that, and if people eat enough beans or they're getting other dietary stuff with folate in it, I don't know that they necessarily need a lot of extra folate in the form of folinic acid. However, it does help some people. And if somebody was going to be pregnant, then they might want to throw in an extra 400 micrograms. The highest dose we usually have people experiment with, if they choose to, is 800 micrograms. We do have the super liquid folate from Designs for Health on our website. Is the cleanest calcium folinate supplement that we found. It does have a tiny bit of B12 in it, but we take that as it goes. So generally, yeah, it would be flush niacin would be number one, which if you watch our niacin debunking episode, we actually go over how flush niacin fixes the methylation issues that everyone's worried about. Then it would be folinic acid from calcium folinate. Then if you're getting into working on specific symptoms, then you might get into, and these are just try it and see and understand that they may turn on you at some point, would be B1, B2, maybe B12. Kelsey wants to add something.
Oh, okay. Yes. So I want to tell everybody, just don't go for methylfolate. I know everybody they say, oh, if you have the MTHFR, you got to have the methylfolate and everything. First of all, I think a lot of people's MTHFR, they just need a little extra niacin to help them methylate, as Dr. Smith was just talking about. It actually helps methylation. It helps feed methylation. Methylfolate was invented by Merck. And so it's, they're not out there to help you really. Most of the vitamins were quote unquote discovered or invented by Merck. There's a great article from American Chemical Society about it in the discovery of B vitamins. But folinic acid, I think, is legit in calcium folinate. However, you need 8 to 10 glutamate molecules. Glutamate, as in, one possible source is monosodium glutamate or MSG. You need 8 to 10 glutamate molecules to make it active and to absorb it and to use it. So methylfolate is not the penultimate form of folic acid. It's actually polyglutamated folic acid and methylated. So for that, you need niacin and nicotinic acid, and you need some glutamate either in your diet or from a supplement like MSG.
Okay, so I hope that answers that question. Albert Kuiper asks, is the long-term use of tretinoin on the skin, especially the face, safe? Absolutely not.
That's how I got aplastic anemia.
Here, wait. Kelsey has a personal story about it. Here you go, Kelsey. I don't think they heard that.
Okay, so
how old were you?
I was 16. I got a very severe aplastic anemia. So that's basically means that most of my bone marrow was gone, was dead, poisoned. There was only what they called 5% cellularity in it. Now, granted, I was, kind of born toxic and jaundiced and everything, but that topical Tretinoin, I believe, 20 years later, I know this thanks to Dr. Smith, my sweetie, that exposure, that year of topical Retin-A micro, and it was the micro kind, so it was extra penetrating, right? They say it's more, it's better, tolerated, but that's just because it's going deeper in you, and it went as deep as my bone marrow and killed off my bone marrow. So I had red Kool-Aid for blood, and had to get treated with real emergency, really scary stuff. So I don't recommend that.
Yeah, and then the other gentleman I mentioned who had he had reflux. I mean, this guy, I want you to know how bad his reflux was. At one point, he was telling me he could eat three things. That was it. And even water was giving him reflux. So he was basically a shut-in. He couldn't go out because he couldn't eat anything. He couldn't drink anything. He just had to stay in his house and do what he could to survive. And that was the guy I just talked about earlier, where he grew up on an orange tree farm. Some days he'd go out into the field and just eat oranges all day. And he used Retin-A in his teenage years. And that's what started his reflux. That he is probably, I believe he is the client who has been I can't remember if it's him or another gentleman, the clients who have been with me the longest, probably over 15 years. And he stuck with me because I was honest with him. Like I wasn't helping him at the start. I honestly wasn't able to help him. I couldn't crack it. And I told him there was one point where I told him, I said, I don't have any more tools for you, man. I don't have anything else. I don't know anything else to do for you. And he said, I understand, not anything has really ever helped me. But he said, Dr. Smith, you're the only doctor who doesn't assume that I'm either lying about it or that I'm crazy and I'm causing this all in my head. So he said, I'm going to stick with you and I'm going to keep hoping that you find something. And then as we went on, I ended up finding about the vitamin A toxicity. And he kind of was, I'd been through, as most practitioners in the alternative world do, I've been through multiple kind of where I thought, okay, all the diseases toxic metals, all the diseases candida, all the diseases gut biome, all the diseases this. And I thought it was all one thing. And so I tried all those with him. And so when the vitamin A toxicity thing came out, he kind of just decided to not tell me about his previous experiences as a teenager when all this started. And he wanted to watch and see if I stuck with this. And he saw me stick with it. And then eventually he tells me about this stuff. And then he starts doing it. And now his reflux of, 3 decades is completely gone. And he told me in person, I did my consult with him up in Phoenix. he said that he knows exactly what he does wrong when his GERD comes back. When his reflux comes back, he says, like, this is what he told me. He said, my brother makes homemade, like, brick oven pizza. And he said, I'm not going to say no to that. And I smile at him like, that's cool. You can eat whatever you want. But he says if he goes and he eats it for like 3 days in a row, then he starts getting some reflux. And he says, I know exactly what I have to do. I just have to get back on the diet and I can calm it all down. So this is the empowering part of what we do, is we are giving people the knowledge and the tools to fix themselves, and then they get to choose how much or how little they choose to incorporate it. So yeah, so 2 retin-A stories for you. I'm sure there's other retin-A stories out there. You are absorbing the retin-A into your bloodstream.
And as far as your inside is your bone marrow.
Oh, and if you want to look up the symptoms of retin-A or tretinoin in your system, there's several words you can look up online. One of them is differentiation syndrome. That's an important term. And they came up with the term differentiation syndrome when they wanted to get rid of the term retinoic acid syndrome. They had a whole name about the syndrome, and it's specifically tretinoin. It's all trans retinoic acid. That's what they use. They use it as chemo and in other conditions. And yeah, it basically destroys people. So I would not use it. It is what it's doing in your skin. It's turning over your cells faster than they would normally. However, that is also how you burn them out. And then that's when they find that people using, retinoic acids on their face, their skin starts to get very, very thin because they've used up the turnover speed of their cells. So that's what we're seeing. Okay. Let's see. Let's go back.
I want to address that.
Okay, you want to...
We got some MSG naysayers in here. What?
Kelsey wanted to hit on a question.
Okay, so I see George Brown 1047. He's saying that gastric cancer is more common in the Asian ethnicity. According to Thomas Seyfried, the cancer can ferment glucose and the amino acid glutamate. Could the increased usage of MSG be linked to that? It's not likely. Cancer is probably, we think of it as a toxicity storage thing. I kind of alluded to that earlier, that if you have spots, if you have growths, those are kind of, they're lockers. They're toxin lockers, and they're trying to detox it faster. So they're consuming more of any kind of source of energy. Glutamate can be burned for energy. So, if cancer eats it, it's because it's using it for energy to do that increased, aldehyde and toxin processing, etc. So that's, to say that a certain substance feed cancer. Well, cancer eats the same stuff as you do, because it's your body. It's specialized cells that have developed to have a higher metabolism, so they can do more, so they can detox more, so they can put a lot of fibrous tissue to kind of, physically protect you, the rest of your body from that. So no, you can't, you kind of have 2 separate ideas going in there. This Thomas Seyfried guy seems to be trying to mush those 2 together, but to avoid glutamate, you'd have to not eat any protein. And I know some people say, oh, just go on ketogenic diets and don't eat sugar and you'll starve cancer. It's like, if you're starving cancer, you're starving yourself too. So people need to realize that. And if you don't eat anything that has sugar and you're forced to make ketones, then yeah, the cancer cells might kind of, slough off before they've fully detoxed. And that kind of negates the preventative thing that you were trying to do anyways. So I don't know why gastric cancer is more common. I'd have to see the papers that you're talking about if you want to link that. But there could be all sorts of other reasons and confounders that make that population different. But they are healthier than us on many other fronts. So even if gastric cancer is higher, they seem to have better outcomes overall on a lot of other things. And so we don't know what it is. It could be like that Swedish study earlier where they're saying they have more skin cancer, but they live longer if they're in the sun. So, without seeing what you're talking about, I can't really talk about that in detail. So, and then somebody said, I gained 10 pounds on MSG and cannot rid of it. Yeah. So, Dragonfly, I don't know what's going on, but I don't know what you mean. And I don't know how compliant you are on the low toxin diet, but glutamate, if it's in the wrong hands or paired with the wrong food, it could potentially cause you to crave foods that aren't good for you. Okay. So, if you're mixing glutamate with a not low toxin diet or a high toxin diet, you could get more addicted to, what you're eating because your body's looking for the glutamate. And if you pair it with some other toxins, you're going to want that food again. Like Doritos, let's say there's glutamate in Doritos and you're craving it. Okay. So not craving it, only eating the bean diet described. I don't know what the bean diet is. And yeah, so it's hard to say. And we don't know if you've gained fat or you've gained muscle, because we've had people that are like have a huge difficulty gaining weight, like they're have cachexia almost. They can't even make muscle or retain muscle, and they can eat tons of calories. And they started doing MSG, and finally they're able to put on some muscle and put on weight. And those were people that were very underweight or in danger of being very underweight. So Dragonfly saying he's doing bean and barley beef. I don't know. And I don't know if you needed those 10 pounds either, or what that is, if that's, water, if that's, so it's hard to say. I'm thin. It's not in a fun spot. My clothes are not fitting.
Well, let me just say barley is a really intense fiber source, and it can be, I call it the black belt of grains, because it's like crazy amounts of fiber, both insoluble and soluble. And so barley is too much for a lot of people. And if you're doing beans and barley, you're doing like a ton of soluble fiber. And if you're doing MSG and if you're an undertype, if you're underweight, if you're thin, it's more likely that you're going to push your detox too hard. That's part of why, like, being thin is like a sign that the liver is not doing well. Being overly underweight is worse than being overweight. So our undertypes, our underweight types tend to push it too hard, too quick. So I would, and again, if the amount of MSG, I would look at the diet first, because that's just a crazy amount of soluble fiber. Fiber in general, and that may just be pushing too hard. So, and that can cause weight gain because you free up toxins, and then you're recirculating them in your bloodstream. And then if you watch the obesity episode here, you start stirring up the toxins in the blood, and the body fat starts creating itself more so it can hold them. So, there was one that I wanted to go over. Oh, about Asians and gastric cancer. Okay, so if we go and we look at, first, there's the smoking thing. It seems that researchers love to try to go hunting for glutamate as the problem and look at like Western countries versus Asian countries. And they're like, ooh, gastric cancer is higher in Asia. And it's obviously the MSG, and they just don't correlate it to the smoking rates. That's exactly what they did in the MSG and PTSD after a traumatic brain injury study. They didn't compare the smoking rates at all. They were going into it to make MSG bad. And then with smoking, with gastric cancer, smoking is known to connect with gastric cancer. Smoking puts in a ton of toxic things, including aldehydes. And what are Asians known for lacking in 50% of the population? They're lacking aldehyde dehydrogenase, one of the most important detox enzymes that we look at. And if you go and you look up ALDH in esophageal cancer and gastric cancer, you'll find that it hits the people who have the genetically low ALDH more. And as I went over in the MSG episode, why are Westerners so willing to become afraid of MSG while Asia will like fight to the death about you taking away their MSG? Because they need the glutamate to help run their ALDH. If you look at the ALDH in the Asians that don't make it well, I covered the research where they're missing glutamates. They're literally missing glutamates in their ALDH. So I don't know how it connects, but possibly getting glutamate in their diet theoretically would likely help them feel better. And so that's why they will not give it up. And glutamate, remember, liver enzymes, ALT, AST, GGT, their whole purpose is literally to make glutamate for you. So if your liver's not doing well and your liver enzymes are going up, your liver is saying we need to make more glutamate. The idea that, and if glutamate is necessary for detoxing, then it would make sense that it can go up and it can look like it's bad for cancer when the body's actually, the first thing we must assume, see, the thing that cancer research does is that cancer research assumes the body is completely idiotic and it's doing all these stupid things to work against itself. That's their assumption. Well, we're not assuming that. We're assuming that the body is doing the most intelligent things it can in the situation that it's given. So people in America and other places, they crave glutamate. That's why there's a whole sixth taste for it, umami. Our bodies want it. And like the biggest sources in the American diet. So Americans have been made to be afraid of glutamate through all this terrible phony research. And yet what do Americans eat more of in their diet? The highest sources of glutamate are wheat, cheese, tomatoes, and beef. I want you to think about all the fast food places. Oh, pork and bacon too. Yeah. So think of American restaurant culture. Wheat, cheese, tomatoes, beef, pork. That is American restaurant culture. And we've had people who literally tell us that they feel better after they go out and they eat fast food. Well, what do you think they just went and ate that had them feel better? It's probably the glutamate. Yes, there's other crappy stuff in the restaurant fast food, but the glutamate made them feel better and they were craving it so bad that they needed to go out and get it because their body said, I need more of this to detox. So that's my take on it. But yeah, it's the smoking and the ALDH. That would be the gastric cancer. One other study on gastric cancer was done in Mexico City. And it found that the highest consumers of spicy peppers had a 17 times higher rate of stomach cancer. Well, they're literally putting a chemical warfare irritation agent into their stomach, and they're wondering why they're getting toxic deposits of tissue there.
Yeah, and also the capsaicinoids, so hot pepper like compounds that are spicy on your tongue, you get that sensation. They block the niacin receptor, and blocking the niacin receptor in your cells where the cells are looking for niacin, and they get a capsaicinoid instead and block the niacin, and so it can't be used. That's also one reason I think for the increased irritation and yeah, so they're not getting any niacin in the stomach to help detox and to help aid NAD plus and all that too. So I think that probably contributes. Somebody asked about pomegranate too. Same thing. Pomegranates have a lot of polyphenols. Polyphenols are definitely known to block the niacin receptor too. So when I'm talking about receptors, I'm talking about when the cells are asking for certain compounds to bring in because they need to use them inside the cell, and then if it gets the wrong thing that has but it has a similar binding property, and then it's going to block that receptor. So it's not only not going to get the thing that it needs, it's going to get something toxic instead, or it's going to get blocked.
Yeah, polyphenols, I've been over this a bunch of times, do tend to, they slow down ALDH. This is in the literature. If you look up resveratrol and quercetin, and they all slow down ALDH. And so after the antioxidant fad, the antioxidant theory got big, we've never seen cancer going down in the population. So
yeah, and you need niacin to run ALDH, so that could be the mechanism.
Yeah. Okay, let's see. I'm just looking through the questions. Oh, K8 is awake, says, I burn so much less since changing my diet. They say, in fact, I don't burn. Let's talk about this real quick. The two things that people will talk about that cause them to stop burning from sun exposure. Can you still burn? Yes, of course. You go out in like crazy equator sun for 6 hours.
I can tell my Spurdy niacin story if you want.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Let me go through this real quick. So we've had many people who used to burn doing the Love Your Liver diet or a low vitamin A diet. And many people have said that they stopped burning and that they tan a lot less after doing this. Other people have said it about seed oils. Okay. So some people say they got rid of seed oils and they stopped burning. We have lots of people who got rid of vitamin A and they stopped burning. What do we store? I mean, literally seed oils. What color are they? First of all, they're yellow. They're full of carotenoids. So there's that. So they're coming in, seed oils are coming in with both vitamin A and the fatty acids needed to store it. And then we have people who are basically doing a low vitamin A diet. And as part of this diet, they're generally trying not to add fats to foods when they can avoid it. And so seed oils disappear anyway. How do we store vitamin A in the fat and in the liver? We bind vitamin A to fatty acid esters. So that's how we store it. So in these approaches, whether it's vitamin A and or seed oils, is we have reduced the source of the toxin and the things that store it. And then we start seeing people not burning. Their eye sensitivity to light goes down. Their skin sensitivity to light goes down. Their eye sensitivity to blue light goes down, because blue light cannot cause damage to your eyes unless vitamin A is present. I've been over that research. So that is the connection between vitamin A and tanning and that stuff. And one thing to know is on Twitter, there's a guy called the Really Tan Man. And he specifically says that if you want to tan, you have to eat tons of vitamin A. So he's just saying the opposite of what I'm saying. I hate to think of what's going to happen to that guy. I mean, he may be destroying a lot of vitamin A by doing a lot of sun. And, he's at least breaking it down from the sun a lot. But if you go out in the sun enough, you will eventually get burned. And, you can overdo anything. So the Really Tan Man might be overdoing it.
I can talk about overdoing
Okay,
it.
Kelsey, you can talk about what you want to talk about.
Okay. So I can definitely, I had a very, before and after very acute example of a sunburn and how, something that we do on the program helped. So I got a Spurdy, because we like those in the program because of the, the reasons for how good it is for you, for your mineral balance and mood, etc. So I got a Spurdy a while back, and for whatever reason, I was too tired and I didn't want to go grab the protective goggles that were in the car that I had forgotten to bring into. So I thought, okay, no, I just won't look directly at the Spurdy, and because I really wanted to try this thing. I was excited to try things. So I was just, just looking at my phone or whatever, just scrolling or reading or something like that. So, but my corneas were still exposed. So that's the white part of your eye. So even though I wasn't putting my pupils on it, it was burning the whites of my eyes. And, I've gotten this before when skiing, the snow is very reflective of UV, and it can, burn your corneas, and it feels like very scratchy in your eye. It feels like there's sand in your eye, sandpaper in your eye for several days. I got that feeling after doing the Spurdy and realizing what a, goofy mistake I had made, in burning my corneas.
I thought, I've seen some studies about niacin helping even after UV damage. So, when you say UV damage, like the DNA has already kind of done its unusual thing and it needs to repair, or the cell has to die. Like there's, apoptosis or apoptosis, people say it differently, but it's like controlled cell death. So either the cell has to die and slough off, and that's like the peeling you see. Okay, so that's a protective response, or it has to repair, and if it can't repair, it's just going to kind of put the self-destruct mode on the cell. So I had seen some research about this about niacin doing it after the fact, and so I made a little niacin spray that was not very concentrated, so not likely to sting or anything, and I sprayed it in my eyes. And this scratchy, sandpapery feeling went away within like an hour. And I headed off, 3 days of discomfort from burning my corneas. So, when you think about it, niacin can help power the repairing DNA. It can help power detoxification through its production of NAD+. Over 500 different detoxification enzymes require NAD+, and that the best source of that is from nicotinic acid. So whatever got burned or detoxed or would have caused my eyes to kind of die and slough off and feel like sandpaper was reverted because niacin was able to fix, repair, detoxify just in time. So I thought that was kind of cool.
Was there any, did you say there was another thing you wanted to mention? Or was it just the
no, people are just talking about MSG and we have people, if you gain weight, usually it's and you're on your low toxin diet, usually check it out. It might be muscle mass.
And also, folks, I'm just gonna say okay, calories, like the people out there on the internet saying calories don't matter, they've gone a bit too far. Okay, calories do matter to an extent, right? You can't just, I'm not going to go and eat 5,000 calories a day and expect that to not put weight on me. It's going to. I know very specifically that I can manage the extra weight that sometimes wants to come on by simply by simply tracking my food, and then I see that. So just know, if you're doing this approach, this diet, and your weight is changing in a way that you don't like, I hate to say this, but you may have to track your food a little bit. Sometimes people get on this approach and there's so much fiber and it's all whole food stuff, and they're not eating enough, and they come and they say, I'm losing weight, and then you say, well, track your food. You're probably under eating. And then we have some people who are like, I'm gaining weight, and you go, well, maybe track your food and see how much food you're eating. It's if you decided you wanted to track your food, a really great app that I have started using, which I really like, is called Macro Factor. It's the easiest food tracking app out there. So if you decide you want to look in more detail, like especially with women, we often have to tell them the 50 grams minimum protein a day. So I don't know where anybody would say that I suggest 50 grams of protein a day. That's the minimum. Okay. 50 grams minimum total protein from all sources in a day. And sometimes when we have women look at that and they actually track their protein, they're way below that. And I know some of you out there would be like, I don't know how anybody could get below 50 grams of protein a day, but we literally have people who are doing that, especially like older women who don't have really great appetites, or they're just small. So tracking your food, calories do matter. Protein does matter. Don't discount any one of these things because just somebody on Twitter said that it doesn't matter. Okay. Conscious B3 said, what is the unspeakable gel? It is 3 letters, and the words we use to describe it here is borine trioxide. So it rhymes with that. So if you can think of 2 words that rhyme with borine trioxide, there is that. And if anybody wants to mention it in the comments, I'm not going to mention it in the comments, but if you decide to help them out with what it is, please go ahead and do that.
Yeah, somebody asked about the ferritin. I'll go over it briefly. Just
No, I want to do that on another show. I want to devote a show to that.
Okay, yeah.
Or do you
Well,
want
I don't want it to go over a list of symptoms and people thinking they might have low ferritin and take iron, because some of the symptoms of low ferritin are also some symptoms of high ferritin, and you don't know until you test. It's 2/3 of people in any kind of liver dysfunction go high ferritin, and 1/3 go low ferritin. It's just kind of which path your liver kind of chose to protect itself.
Okay, well, okay. So I was just thinking, since I'm up here in Idaho, and this was Kelsey's discovery, and I'm here with Kelsey right now, we should probably do it right now. So let me just read the question. Quietly content bearish. This person's been very interested in us going over this stuff. I'm trying to stop saying he or she because I've made a mistake on that several times now. So anyway, hey,
there's another bear too. So.
The question is, hey, Kelsey, the lives with you are so fun. Can you go over your new findings for low ferritin individuals? Yeah, well, where do you want to begin?
Well, like I was saying, I'm hesitant to describe the symptoms of low ferritin because
yeah, let me add something here.
I don't know if they heard me earlier. Go ahead.
This is not medical advice.
Yeah, this is not.
And if you choose to take action on anything that Kelsey and I are about to say about low ferritin based solely on symptoms, and you didn't actually get a ferritin lab, if you make the wrong decision because you were too cheap or lazy to go get a ferritin lab, which you can order through our office, that's not our mistake, okay? Because I don't know if you could hear Kelsey through the microphone as she was saying, but there are shared symptoms of high ferritin and low ferritin. So if you just look at symptoms, you could make a big mistake and treat it the wrong direction. This is why I partially didn't want to talk about this in public, because you give people enough rope to hang themselves with, and somebody's going to do it, and then they're going to try to blame me because they couldn't, or Kelsey because they couldn't follow simple instructions and or go get a lab test to confirm where they're at. So after all that big disclaimer, Kelsey, let's talk about it.
That's not okay. Yeah, just what he said. So, okay, in any kind of liver dysfunction, because we think it's, something beeped.
Take this.
Okay. In any shade of liver dysfunction that, and that's what we're all working on is the, the kind of the big bad, our livers went bad and they can't do all sorts of things that they used to do or very well, or as well as they used to. And you can either have high ferritin with liver dysfunction, or liver overload, whatever you want to call it. Our livers aren't doing so hot, and that's why we have the Love Your Liver program. In any sort of a shade of that, you can have high ferritin or low ferritin. It's about 1/3 of people. I'm just talking about women here, okay? It's a little different because we have our periods and everything, and hormones and stuff affecting this. And guys, not so much. So I'm mostly talking about women who could possibly be low ferritin, but I have seen low ferritin on men too. So it's not completely exclusive. And I just started noticing that these low ferritin types, about 1/3 of the women and most of the people on the program, our members are like 70%, just because women are a little bit more likely to get into our program and kind of hear our message and hear what's going on. But yeah, so about 1/3 of people were tending towards this low ferritin pattern. And in that case, and I could count myself among that, a lot of times things happen to me, or, I'm still dealing or struggling with something. And then I start to notice it in other people and, do some more research. And lo and behold, I'm not the only one. And it's something else that we can address for people. So anyways, so if you do tend towards this pattern, I don't want to tell you what to look for because it could overlap with high ferritin, but it tends to be in women, and, it can make women low thyroid. It can make women low fertility. There's some research on that. So we kind of decided with the research to up our ranges of what's considered low. because we know in America, with our unhealthy population that these numbers are based on, these lab values or reference ranges, as they call them, they're based on a very sick population, obviously. So their low is 15. So anything under 15 is considered low. But that's got men in there too, right? They're not distinguishing between men's needs and women's needs, and their averages. So the low was just way too low, and even at like 30 and under, or under 50 for ferritin, you can start to have fertility problems. And as we know in this program, like, fertility is health. Like, you might not necessarily be wanting to have kids, but the fact that you could is a sign of health. So there can be fertility issues under 50. There can be thyroid issues. There can be digestive issues, low stomach acid. There can be bleeding issues. And again, all these can happen. A lot of those can happen with high ferritin too. But anyway, so we decided to kind of up the low value for our clients and our testing clients. And so this could potentially be kind of an issue. Did I cover that okay?
Well, I think I can cover some of the things.
Thank you. Yeah. I wasn't really prepared to give a talk on that.
Yeah,
but
Kelsey did not prepare for that, so we decided to do this. But okay, so I'll just go over our range of ferritin for men is staying the same at 30 to 70. Okay, we are changing the range for women based on Kelsey's findings and with helping people from 50 to 100. Now, to simplify. Okay, can people with simply liver problems have low ferritin? Yes. Have we fixed this in people? Yes. We've had people with chronically low ferritin, especially when they tend to be underweight, over time, not only fix their weight issues, but fix their ferritin issues, and they get them up into normal.
You can even get heavy with low ferritin.
Yeah, low ferritin could be if people with low ferritin have gained weight, then that's where the low ferritin can be affecting your thyroid. So let me go into the bigger cause of this and the bigger fix. And if you do not have a ferritin number and you decide to blindly follow these statements, again, that is your choosing. This is why I don't like discussing labs on live streams, is because, again, it's giving people enough rope to hang themselves with, and then it's user error, and they come back and try to blame us. Okay. Here's what is likely happening for most women who have this issue. The copper toxicity is causing excessive menstrual bleeding. How many of you ladies out there have had that? Okay, one of the first things that we do for the excessive menstrual bleeding is vitamin K and MSG. The MSG is important.
In the blood.
The what?
Or the vitamin D use bringing calcium in the blood.
Oh, yeah. Well, so anything that raises the calcium in your blood too high will stop your good coagulation processes, and vitamin A toxicity can do that. Vitamin D supplements can do that. Too much calcium, especially as supplements, can do that. So anyway, there's all sorts of reasons that women could potentially be losing too much blood on a monthly basis that they are not catching up in their iron status, or during childbirth, excessive bleeding during childbirth, stuff like that. Any way you ladies can lose blood from down there could cause this, and copper toxicity will generally worsen it all. So I want you to understand, in most people, we tend to see high ferritin. However, once too much blood has been lost, which is a copper toxicity related cause, then the ferritin goes down, and it can be challenging for people to bring it up. And we have learned one other thing that may be getting in the way of this. So we're trying to now fix the low ferritin and the copper toxicity, so excess copper, which also goes with low zinc. Well, it seems that zinc supplements can get in the way of getting the ferritin up when it's low. We're talking mainly about women here, folks. So here's the simple thing. If you have good ferritin in those ranges I mentioned, none of this applies to you. And with women, that's 50 to 80. Now, or sorry, 50 to 100. Men are 30 to 70. If you have good ferritin, none of this applies to you. If you have high ferritin, the stuff I'm talking about doesn't apply to you. Especially ladies, if you have low ferritin, we need to work on everything else for the copper toxicity and the bleeding other than taking zinc supplements, because that will inhibit you refilling your iron stores. And yes, we have research on this. So, low ferritin for women who are copper toxic means you take a break from the zinc and you do your, other things like selenium and molybdenum and the MSG and the vitamin K and flush niacin and
even a little.
Maybe lactoferrin. And if you're going to take any zinc, you better be very, very careful with it, because you may be prolonging your recovery. So this is something Kelsey recently figured out, and then I refound the research on the zinc interfering with iron restoration in low iron women. We're talking about one group here. We're talking about low ferritin women. That's the main thing. So if you're not in that group, this is not for you. Did I miss anything? I think that's it.
You're wasting your zinc too, because
Well, yeah.
because there's a
because I'm the nerd here, has to talk about the mechanisms. So if you're low iron, you just don't have enough iron, and the hemoglobin is the last to go. If you want to know, that pigment that is responsible for carrying all your oxygen around and all your red blood cells, that's the last to go. A lot of doctors or practitioners believe that, if your hemoglobin isn't low, you're fine. You have enough iron. That's fine, because you have enough iron to make hemoglobin. But there's plenty of other places where you need iron in your body. You need it in the liver to turn T4 into T3. You need to convert your thyroid hormone. You need it to make your happy chemicals, dopamine especially. It's called tyrosine hydroxylase, if you need to know that. So there's a need for iron in the brain too, to make your happy chemicals and to help your mood. So it's you could mess with that if you don't have enough iron, and it's hard to show because the blood supply in the brain is kind of cut off from the rest of the blood. So your body will triage the hemoglobin and keep that, where you can have also a muscle deficiency of myoglobin, because that has iron in it too, but it's not going to leak out into the blood supply that they're taking from your arm. And that needs oxygen too, and it's very good stuff, and it helps us, hold our breath and stay underwater. It's why mammals can stay underwater, because of myoglobin. It provides oxygen, and that needs iron too. So there's also several detoxification enzymes that need iron in the center of them. Heme is it's called. That's the protein that's can do things in the body and oxidize things, and it's a controlled oxidation of toxins. But there's several detox enzymes need that. So what can happen though when you're making your hemoglobin and there's just not enough iron around, and you're giving it zinc instead, then this molecule called ferritochelase can put zinc into the middle of this protein called porphyrin. It's the precursor to heme from hemoglobin. It can put zinc in there too. And if there's zinc around, it has to substitute. It has to put something in there a lot of times. And that will make a fluorescent pigment that's useless. So it will grab onto your zinc. It will be useless. It will probably come out, in your pores and in your hair and your mouth and other fluids, but it's useless. So your zinc won't be used because ferritochelase has got to put something in there, and you don't have the iron. So that's going to affect you in different places, even before the hemoglobin ever gets affected. So that's all I got to say about that.
Okay, Joe, let me get this link. I'll put this link in the chat, and then we'll head to the share, the screen share. Okay, let's see. Okay, This was the paper. So one of the things that when Kelsey and I were talking about this, for you, okay, if you are a woman who is very sensitive to your zinc supplement, or it makes you tired, ladies, if you're taking a zinc supplement and it makes you tired and you have low ferritin, this is what's going on. The zinc is going in where the iron should go. And this is the paper that we use. One of the things Kelsey remembered, and we talked about it in our private chat, was that she said if she took an iron supplement, her zinc supplement didn't make her as tired. And we didn't recognize it at the time, but it's coming back around again. So here, I want you to pay attention to this paper. Supplemental zinc lowers measures of iron status in young women with low iron reserves. Who are we talking about here? We're talking about women who have low ferritin. Okay. So what did they give them? The effect of zinc supplementation, 22 milligrams of zinc a day as zinc gluconate. So it's not a great form of zinc, and it's not a lot. Or of iron supplementation. So 100 milligrams iron a day as ferrous sulfate. So not a great iron supplement either. For 6 weeks on iron and zinc metabolism and absorption was evaluating young women with low iron reserves. Pay attention to this next line. Young adult women, non-anemic, but with low iron stores, plasma ferritin of less than 20 micrograms per liter, participated in the 70-day study. Okay. Did you catch that? They had low ferritin, yet they were not anemic. So if you're just doing a CBC, a complete blood count, which is also called the anemia panel, and that looks fine, and you're not looking at ferritin, the ferritin can go very, very low before the hemoglobin and other things start changing. I think Kelsey was mentioning that earlier. So this is one of the reasons we do ferritin, and we don't particularly look at the CBC, because fixing the CBC is not hard. Fixing the ferritin is harder. So let's come down here. Our results indicate that the use of iron supplements in women with marginal iron status improves iron indices with no effect on zinc status. I'll cover that in a second. However, use of a modest zinc supplement improves zinc indices, but also appears to induce a cellular iron deficiency and possibly further reduce iron status. So what they're saying is, for those of you ladies who are freaking out saying, but I don't want to stop taking my zinc, I need it for the copper toxicity. They're saying here that the iron helped the iron to come up, and it didn't lower the markers of zinc. Whereas the zinc made the zinc markers go up, and it actually reduced the iron markers. Okay, so we're going to have to pick one button to push. You can't mash down both buttons at the same time. It's not going to work that way. So very simply, ladies, especially if you are, even if you're postmenopausal ladies, if you have low ferritin below a 50, you better not be donating blood. You better not be trying to bring it down anymore. We are working on taking a break from the zinc and getting it from food. So just get it from like red meat if that's what you need to do for now. We give guidance in our consultations about iron supplement dosing, and we may be bringing a very cool iron supplement to the American market that's not really available here. I'm in discussions with a supplier about that out of Europe, and then yeah, if you need to supplement, then supplement. Well, Kelsey, you were saying that ferritin less than 50 in Canada, they'll give you an iron infusion. Is that right? Like
yeah,
right
you know
away?
how stingy they are in Canada about medical treatment.
Yeah, so Canada, with its socialist medicine, if a woman shows up with a ferritin of less than 50, they will automatically give them an iron infusion. So if that says something about something, then you know, that's important. So if some of you ladies out there who have really low ferritin, and if you have the option of trying an iron infusion, you may want to try that. But again, you're not taking your zinc. You don't take an iron supplement if you're doing infusions. and vice versa.
Yeah, and you know, again, another disclaimer is that oral iron supplementation is not straightforward. It takes a long time, and if it's been low for a long time, it makes it harder to absorb in the future for all sorts of reasons from your liver, hepcidin and all that.
Okay, we need you to talk into the microphone.
Oh, okay.
Or
I was just trying to remember. Sorry.
Start over.
Okay, yeah, so so for those of you who might already know that you have low ferritin or something like that, like it's not straightforward. You just take iron. It takes weeks to months to get your levels up. You should be checking. There can be digestive discomfort. There could be even rebound exhaustion because your body might be doing some repair and regeneration and more cell division, and that takes energy. So it might take to take energy from you and make you more tired. So that's something you have to account for too, and kind of do testing and use your intuition onto whether that's a bad tired or a good tired or repairing tired. So it's not straightforward. You have to take it a certain time of day and not take it with other things, and definitely would want guidance on there. So if anybody's suspecting they might be low, or even if you already know you are, you definitely want to talk to us first before you try to do iron.
For those of you doing the testing and consultation, you can come to Kelsey's office hours for sure. She's the one leading the way on this. I can help you a bit with it, but Kelsey's the one who kind of figured it out in herself, and she's been the one leading the way on it. So that's where you can talk to her, is her Monday office hours. So that's what we have on that. That was a long explanation.
Yeah, thank you.
But we got it out there. Oh, Eliza says she is so adorbs.
Oh, thanks,
She
Eliza.
is. She really is.
Oh.
So let's see. I'm looking out. Yeah, Dragonfly says loads of info out there on the 3 letters. Yes, there is a boring trioxide testimonials group on Telegram, and there's another gentleman named David Oates, Oates, on Substack, where you can get lots of information on that stuff. Joanna, so is the gel that cannot be named a good thing? I believe so. Yes, it can be used very, very well. Are there 2 more super chats? Joe, did you send me those, or did I miss? Sergio was saying I missed them, so I did the. Oh, Sergio says my mom has kidney stones. How can I help her? So, well, I mean, we have a study in dogs that showed that the higher vitamin A in the blood, the more kidney stones the dogs had. You may want to look into, I would definitely look into, so what do we do? Most kidney stones are mainly made of calcium. The calcium is almost always in there. So how do we fix calcium deposits in the body? Magnesium. So topical magnesium, maybe even some oral magnesium. Now, one of the things that's been done in the past is using mineral citrates to help dissolve kidney stones, whether that's sodium citrate or potassium citrate or magnesium citrate or a combination of the 3. Then we have making sure they're getting enough water, which in some of the older populations, they really don't drink enough water. Vitamin A toxicity would tend to raise the calcium levels in the blood by eating away at bones. Vitamin D supplements will raise calcium in the blood. The more calcium in the blood you have, the more the kidneys are going to filter it out, the more they're going to catch on to it, and it's going to get stuck and crystallized. So fixing vitamin A toxicity, fixing not taking rat poison vitamin D supplements, getting enough magnesium. Copper seems to play a role in the calcium levels too. So we got that. Then there would be, well, those are the main things.
Nice.
Oh, Flush, Kelsey says Flush Nice
Yeah,
and
and she's
can
not
help
willing
too.
to do the program, and okay, so not all of our relatives are willing to do the whole entire program. So I would look up
from the Orthomolecular Institute, how they fix kidney disease with flush niacin. Okay, specifically buffered flush niacin, and this is what kidney doctors who know about it will do to take people out of severe kidney disease and into mild or even absent kidney disease. So if she doesn't mind the flush, but she doesn't really want to do the other stuff, then you could potentially fix that.
Well, since Kelsey knew about that article, I'm not going to read this, but I'll share it on the screen, and then I'll put the link in the chat. So Joe, if you can put there. So this, I'll zoom in a little bit, but I'm not going to read much on this one. Let me go in here. Reversing chronic kidney disease with niacin and sodium bicarbonate. So that would be that's buffered flush niacin. That would be sodium niacinate once they combine properly, and the buffering has been done properly. And I'm going to say it again, folks. Buffering is a literal chemical reaction that can only be done with certain things. Buffering does not mean adding charcoal to your flush niacin. It does not mean taking zeolite with your flush niacin. It does not mean taking some magnesium pill, magnesium glycinate with your flush niacin. It is a literal chemical reaction that can only happen with certain things. So if you're in the Love Your Liver group, read Kelsey's buffering niacin article and realize that the only things we use to buffer it are in that article. So if you're thinking you're doing something else to buffer it, you're not doing it if it's not on that list. Unless you're some chemist and you know what you're doing, but otherwise most normal people in the Love Your Liver program,
It's best not to.
Yeah, don't go going cowboy.
Yeah, because if you are intimidated by the buffering, you don't necessarily have to. Okay, so and you might even run low acids in your stomach, so you might not even need to buffer. I'm a little less strict about it these days. If you're not getting like nausea, reflux, indigestion, diarrhea, etc., when you take higher doses of niacin, you may not need to buffer, and that's okay. And that's one less thing that you have to do or could possibly screw up. So if you don't know and you're not sure, the safest thing to do is to not buffer, actually.
So just again, I want to say that, like, yes, we know about people out there who have fixed their severe chronic kidney disease with a low vitamin A diet. There is that, absolutely. And then we have this stuff from orthomolecular.org, where they are also reversing chronic kidney disease with niacin and sodium bicarbonate. We can, as we've talked about before, we do multiple approaches to this. We do a multi-pronged approach, right? First, we reduce or eliminate or minimize the toxins coming in. That would generally be like the low vitamin A diet and the other things we're looking at. Number two, we facilitate the removal of toxins from storage, which can be the binders like zeolite, like charcoal, like soluble fiber. It can also be potentially flush niacin. And then the third thing is we give the body the nutrients that it needs to protect itself and to facilitate detox pathways. Flush niacin goes on that too, and so does zinc and selenium and molybdenum and all that stuff. Oh, you ladies who are thinking about the ferritin thing and detoxing copper, you would tend to, if you're not doing zinc, definitely make sure you're looking into your molybdenum, because molybdenum is a copper antagonist. And there is specifically, I don't have the paper right now, but there are papers showing that molybdenum deficiency heavily related to long-term anemia. So molybdenum and how it relates to copper toxicity. So it was molybdenum deficiency and copper toxicity as related to long-term anemia. So if you're not doing zinc, then make sure you're optimizing your molybdenum, which doesn't just mean taking more and more. It means figuring out the dose, which that we do through the hair testing. So I think that's it. So there's this article that you could read. So that was one of these super chats. Thank you for pointing that out, Sergio. Let's see. Did I miss anything? Hold on. I'm not on my normal computer, so it's harder for me to keep track of the super chats. No, Joe, we did. I'm just going to go through here and look at these. Oh, another thing about kidney stones. Yes, Conscious B3 said CT scan 2017 post MVA report showed nothing wrong with the kidneys. Pelvic fracture and extensive surgery. Surgeon recommended vitamin D capsules. Fast forward a year, I had kidney stones. It's literally rat poison that calcifies. It makes your soft tissues calcify, and it pulls calcium out of your bones. So don't do that. Okay, Jackie K said my kidney stones are calcium oxalate. Yes, so oxalates and calcium. If you have a tendency towards kidney stones, you may need to watch your oxalates. So she said, so I've reduced oxalates past 7 and only have a few left, but no new ones. Okay, so Christina asked, does Nutrition Detective have a selenium and molybdenum only supplement? We have separate molybdenum supplements and separate selenium supplements and separate zinc supplements of both. We have 15 milligrams of zinc and 30 milligrams of zinc. So we have those all, we made them all separate. A lot of people maybe don't know about them and they just want to do the keystone minerals, which is fine if you tolerate it. But if you don't tolerate the keystone minerals as it is and you want to do them all separately, then yeah, they're absolutely separate. So, okay, Christina said, my ferritin was recently at 55 and I stopped taking iron since it was at that, but my TBIC was also up. I'm postmenopausal. Yeah, so I would, oh, somebody's asking about malic acid. They were saying, could they just use malic acid powder instead of the capsules? I mean, sure. The thing about powders, folks, powders are great because they don't have a bunch of additives in them. The problem with powders is that, like, as an example, some people started messing around with zinc powders and they took way too much. Now, I had a guy back when he thought borax was good for him. He was taking a grain of borax a day, 1 grain, you know, like it's a little tiny pebble size. His boron on the hair test was off the charts. You start messing around with powders, and if you don't know what you're doing, and you're not going to be having a microgram scale because those things are like $10,000 to $20,000. You're going to have probably the scales you buy online are going to be not great milligram level scales, and you could mess yourself up. So malic acid is approved for food use, so that means it's pretty safe. Potassium malate is approved for food use as well. But yeah, if you start taking spoonfuls of it, or you have no idea how much you're taking and your dosing gets crazy, that's the risk of powders. So, but even still, as an example, sometimes the dairy industry, because they're measuring micrograms of vitamin D3 that they're adding to the milk or vitamin A, they sometimes mismeasure, and there have been children that have died because of their mismeasuring microgram doses of vitamin D into the milk. So,
can I talk about powders too?
Oh, yeah. Kelsey wants to say something about powders.
Yeah, if you don't know what you're doing, it can get really dangerous, especially when you're, doing things that are dosed in the micrograms, because there's no such thing as a home microgram scale. So, that looks like a speck. So please don't try to do that unless you're a chemist like me and you know what you're doing, and proper dilutions and you have a good scale and everything. And yeah, their microgram scales are $10,000, and you'd have to essentially dilute it in something else to actually have a quality measurement. Anyways, yeah, somebody was trying to make their own selenium glycinate powder or molybdenum glycinate powder that from stuff they had bought online, and they were giving their children like 33 times the normal dose of molybdenum. So it's It takes education out there to do it, and I wouldn't do powders for a lot of stuff. But amino acids, organic acids like malic acids that feed the cycle and are essentially can be used for energy. Okay, but minerals, nah.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, we've had some people try to save money, and they may end up poisoning themselves or their kids. So be careful with that stuff. Okay. I'm just going to double check the super chats. We're at 12:30, so we're probably going to wrap it up. And we had some really big subjects today. So I got the Sergio bile dumps one. Is sodium. We did the processed meats from Sergio. We did the zinc carnosine from Sergio. Thank you for all those, Sergio. And we did the Austin's T3, T4 question. We did Katie's B vitamin question. We did Sergio's kidney stones question. We did Albert's long-term use of tretinoin on the skin, especially the face. I mean, there's dermatologists out there. I'm just going to say this again. There are dermatologists out there who are really going against vitamin A topically on the face because they know it thins the skin really bad after long-term use. So, let's see. Let's see. Alfreda said, back to the T3 question, my TSH doubled from the last test and probably meds will help to get back to baseline for the time, hypersensitive, etc. Is T3 the way to go? Again, when people want definitive answers of like, will this work for me? Or how much potassium should I take? There was another question down there of like, how much potassium malate to take. I cannot tell you these things. This is where some people appreciate the honesty of me saying, I can't tell you how you're going to react to things and you kind of have to try them. Or I could give you a protocol, quote unquote protocol, and tell you, and then people take it and they go, I didn't feel good on that dose. So then they throw the whole baby out with the bathwater and they're like, I can't do this because they're sensitive. So one of the reasons we have helped as many people as we have is because we allow for the individual responses. And we know that we don't know all the reaction possibilities to anything. And so it becomes, this may be likely to help you and you can try it. And if you don't feel good on it, then listen to your body and don't take it, or try it again later, or try a lower dose, or do something different with it and see if we can make it work. So, and if people, again, if people push detox too hard, things will go wonky. There has been tons of space weather lately. If you guys don't remember, there was the blood moon, the lunar eclipse, the 6-planet parade, and I believe, just to throw another one in there, there was Mercury in retrograde, all happening or in the same several weeks time frame. So if you had in the past, month, a pretty rough month, and you don't know why, there was tons of space weather stuff that doesn't register on, like the 6-planet parade, that doesn't register on space weather apps or any of that stuff. Yeah, Schumann's been kind of bonkers lately too. So just know that, and then as I've been talking to somebody else on Telegram that Beth Martin's introduced me to, they have been cranking up the towers as well. So, yeah. And I've always seen this. I've always tended to notice this, that when the world political stage gets kind of crazy, like, I don't know, war, the space weather is always kicking up around the same time. So it's almost like they're timing it together so that they can upset people the most. Which, if you know about looshing, it all makes sense. So, but yeah, T3 is something to try. There's if people aren't converting T4 into T3, then they're just not they can take T4 and not feel much of anything. So that people may want to do a mixture of the two, or they may try T3 only. I think somebody was mentioning this in the comments that they tried T3 and they decided they wanted to add some T4 back to it. See, so this is all individual stuff. We are not managing thyroid hormones here. That is for your doctor to do.
Oh yeah, and if you're low ferritin, you won't convert the T3.
Oh, and low ferritin is another reason that people might not convert their T4 into T3.
For that enzyme.
So, let's see. Dragonfly asks, will Eden plum vinegar work as well as MSG? I can't imagine there's sodium there. I can't believe there's I have a hard time thinking that there's MSG in plum vinegar. But I would, for those, I mentioned potassium malate earlier. For those of you who came, there's one brand of potassium malate out on the market. It's on Amazon right now. Is the easiest place to find it. It's Ideal Infusions Potassium Malate. I've been having a very good feeling about it, and I've been trying it myself, and I seem to like what it's doing for me. So if you guys want to try that as a potassium source, I am saying feel free to do it and come back with your findings. Okay. Time is always ready. Said my wife's general practitioner results show high potassium, low folic acid, and a dust mite allergy. Since I've been encouraging her to follow a low vitamin A diet, I'm not sure how to address these results. High potassium on a blood test tends to mean that they are toxic. They are losing potassium from their tissues, and it's going into the blood. That is my general assumption with that. And unless she has really severe kidney disease, first I would work on potassium from foods. That would be where I'd go first. If you want to do some of the low folic acid, I have a whole video on this channel about folate being depleted by vitamin A toxicity. Vitamin A toxicity blocks potassium channels. Then we start to see a connection between the vitamin A and the high potassium, potentially in the blood, and the low folic acid. Dust mite allergy is just, allergies are the foundation of allergies is vitamin A toxicity. I've been over this before. So she's probably got a lot of stuff going on with vitamin A toxicity. And then if she is also, she has a history of vitamin D supplements, then those tend to deplete potassium too. But like I said, to deplete something out of the tissues, it must first go into the blood so it can leave the body. So that's how we can see things that are high while we're actually in a loss pattern. So we have to look at what the person's doing. If she was taking tons of potassium and her blood potassium was high, then we understand where it came from. But if she's not getting a lot of potassium in her diet and she's not taking supplements and we see high potassium, then we go, okay, where is this coming from? It's coming from somewhere. And then we start going and looking at that. So Lisa asks, hello, Dr. Smith and Kelsey. I'm still having constipation. Is milk of magnesia okay? That is one of the things that we do use for people with constipation. Milk of magnesia is magnesium hydroxide in water. It is a suspension. It is just, so you have to shake it up really well each time. However, again, this is one of the powders thing. People could buy powders of magnesium hydroxide and just take it. Milk of magnesia is just expensive magnesium hydroxide powder in water. So if you decide to figure out how much you need, because magnesium hydroxide is mainly dosed to helping you poop, then you can do that. Excuse me. Okay. So let's see. Yeah, no more super chats. Oh, wait. Let's see. Kelsey took off, so we're not going to get to the question about kids' lunches. Let's see. Oh, Stonebreaker herb tea. There is Chanca Piedra. Chanca Piedra is an herb out there that, in theory, helps with kidney stones and potentially gallstones. So there's a brand out there that I have used called Blue Organics with an X at the end. I know it's on Amazon. I'm sure you can find their own website too. But yeah, Blue Organics. And yeah. So. Oh, Sergio says, I don't know how to protect my kid from the pokies. I see that one now. I wish there was an easy answer for that. Part of the reason I'm moving to Idaho is because Idaho has fairly conservative stances on things of that nature. Like I can on the school exemption form, I can tell them I don't want to. I can check a box that says I don't want to tell you about anything about the pokies that my kid has had, and I can write down my own reason for wanting an exemption. So, and that's not bragging. It's a nice. It's even in America, we're having to run around for health freedom. Yeah, I'm not going to get myself in trouble talking about. You may have to think of ways to get around things, and that's about all I'm going to say because I don't need to get myself in trouble. But you know, things are going to get weird. As some people have been saying, the whole push for the whole war in Iran and all that stuff is making gasoline so expensive, and they said, well, one of the ways to get everybody to drive electric cars is to make gas so expensive that everybody has to drive electric cars. And it's like, oh, interesting strategy here that they're probably all in on. So they make a ton of money while the gas prices go up. And then eventually people can't buy the gas and they all have to buy new cars. So it's quite the plan. So if you're trusting the plan, I don't know what to tell you anymore. If you're still a plan truster, boy, if you haven't figured it out by now that they are not your friend, I don't know what to tell you. There is nobody in this government who is your friend.
Yeah, put the glue stick down and figure it out.
Quietly Contempt Bear says, is liquid folate and folinic acid the same thing? So the super liquid folate from Designs for Health. Okay, so what you'll see on the label on the back is you would see folinic acid with then parentheses around as calcium folinate, and then it would say the amount of folinic acid in it. It's kind of like on our Keystone Minerals label where it says zinc niacinate, or it says zinc as zinc niacinate. This is the one with niacin in it. And then it'll say, 30 milligrams of zinc. And then when you get down to the niacin part, it will say as zinc niacinate and nicotinic acid, because that it comes from what we did. One of the cool things we did on the Keystone Minerals plus niacin was instead of adding a filler, or instead of the old magnesium malate filler, I chose to use some extra nicotinic acid in there, some extra flush niacin. Since there's already flush niacin in it, I used one of the active ingredients as the filler. And then we got the flush niacin per pill up to, 200 milligrams per pill of nicotinic acid. So
that's a pretty decent amount.
And that's a dose, yes. But yeah, so what is in the super liquid folate is calcium folinate, which contains folinic acid. Yeah, Joe, that's the regular Keystone Minerals, and then there's the ones with niacin. So you guys, if you're going to try it.
And still has a little bit of niacin if you're going to do that, and glutamate. A source of glutamate, protein even.
Oh, yeah, Kelsey was just saying if you're going to do folinic acid or any kind of folate, still be taking your flush niacin and get some glutamate from foods or MSG or whatever. But, yeah. Okay. I wish I could help you more on that, Sergio, but I can't. I definitely can't say what I would consider doing on a public forum like this. So, yeah. Okay. Okay, we're going to wrap it up. Kelsey went out to do some stuff outside, so I think that's all we got for today. So I will see you all next time. Joe, if you want to start running the links. For those of you who are interested in the individual minerals, keep an eye out on our newsletter. And for those of you who don't know, if and when we decide to have flash sales, the place we mainly announce it is our newsletter. So if you want to sign up for our newsletter, the place to go for that is madnessofmodernnutrition.com. Again, that's madnessofmodernnutrition.com, and that's where you can get on our email newsletter where we announce the live streams, where we announce flash sales, where we announce other fun things that we're doing. So, Joe, you going to run those? Oh, yes, Dragonfly, you enjoy your day too. So we got, so Twitter. We're starting with Twitter. Okay, x.com or Twitter, NutriDetect. This is actually the main place where I announce the live streams, but I don't think Twitter shows people my tweets about the live streams very much. But anyway, Twitter is there, madnessofmodernnutrition.com. That's our newsletter. You can also find that from our main website, which is nutritiondetective.com. Oh, Joe says there's a big lag going on between what he's posting and what I'm seeing. So yeah, good old Idaho internet, maybe, I don't know. Or yeah, nutritiondetective.com is our main website. That's where you can find all of our stuff. If you want to go check it out, in the menu bar, we now have instructions for all of our products. So if you go look on the menu bar for the tab called instructions, we have instructions for all however many products we have now. Is it 15? I don't know. Here you are on YouTube, youtube.com/@nutritiondetective. That's where you can find this. Any live streams that you can't find on, actually the last live stream that we got taken off of YouTube was 198. It was when Kelsey was on with me before. So anyway, if you want to find that, then you go to rumble.com/user/nutrition-detective. That's where you can find all of our episodes, unedited, uncensored, and the number 198 that was deemed unsuitable here. So yeah, I think that's, Joe, are we almost done? Yeah, I think that's the last one. nutritiondetective.com. Again, like I said, the new instructions are there. That's where the QR codes on the products will take you. We're still fixing that little QR code issue from the Keystone Plus Niacin, I think it was. Oh, the Revive mouthguard. For those of you who are willing to experiment, the Revive, I am still a huge fan of the Revive mouthguard. I am still wearing it as often as I can, the day guard during the day and typically the R1 at night or the R3. Ken did a live stream with us, and I did other stuff about skull collapse with toxicity. So you might want to check those out. The Love Your Liver program. This is my life's work. This is where it's a little private social network, if you will, where people can talk about it and find the whole program in one place. And yes, we're going to add that ferritin and zinc thing to it. Instagram, the.realnutritiondetective. That's where I am there. And we've been posting more shorts and reels lately, so you can see those there. Just waiting for the next one, Joe. Facebook's the same, the.realnutritiondetective, even though Meta is just awful. If you wanted to work with Kelsey or Nathan or get to see me in the office hours, then that would be the consultation tab, or is it testing and consultation? I don't remember what it is on the website, but that is where we do the hair testing and the blood testing, and then you get the support in the office hours for up to 6 months. This is my Substack, drgarrettsmith.substack.com. I'm going to be publishing more stuff there. Joe and I have been working on articles and figuring out stuff, how to put it there. And what else do we got, Joe? We got to be almost close to done. Thank you all for coming. Yeah, when I move up here, then Kelsey and I will be able to do more episodes like this. Oh yeah, the sun. So today's live stream, we went over that sun and UV study, the findings that tanning beds and the sun is better for you than not, even in regards to skin cancer. And we did the live Q&A, and we went over several things like the orthomolecular article on kidney stones, and we went over the low ferritin in women and the zinc supplementation, and we covered all sorts of interesting stuff today. And we're 2.5 hours in. So hope you all enjoyed that. We will see you next time. I got some more copper toxicity stuff. We're probably going to do copper toxicity with women, the problems it causes in women next. And then there's a new angle that I'm working on. I just started looking into it today. So we're going to figure out more ways to help people. Okay. We will see you all next time. Bye now.